Welcome, everybody, to the fourth episode of The Great American Squabble. This is my co host, Unoptimized Fool,
Hello.
and I'm You Gotta Believe. We are here to bring you insight into modern day politics and world news, so get ready to refuel with the gas. Let's get started, shall we?
All right.
President's, President Biden's performance at the White House Correspondent Dinner. So, in my opinion, Joe Biden hit it out of the park with a perfect blend of humor and hard hitting political commentary. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, though the protests. While some may argue that the White House Correspondents' Dinner should have addressed the Israel Hamas war more directly, I believe Biden's decision to focus on the importance of free press and dangers of disinformation was spot on. Biden's remarks on the wrongful detention of journalists in countries like Russia and Syria were a powerful reminder of the importance of press freedom. And by shining a light on these injustices, he not only stood in solidarity with the detained journalists, but sent a clear message to the world that the United States stands for freedom of press. And his comedic timing was impeccable. Did you see how many times he fell asleep there? So I think all in all, he had some laughs. You know, he had some good moments, but it was a nice correspondence dinner. What are your thoughts, fool?
Yeah, I mean, I've watched bits and pieces of it, and it's good that the host is a comedian, so it kind of lightens everything up, and it's a lighter atmosphere, right? I mean, even Biden took the opportunity to joke about his age, which it's like one of those jokes where you say it, and then like you're laughing, you're like, oh, but this kind of sucks still, like because he's older, and a lot of people have been attacking him for his age and his mental capabilities. So when he took the joke about it, I was like, it's funny, but I'm glad he's self-aware of it. But yeah, you mentioned the protesters outside. Um, a lot of protesters obviously are, obviously upset about the things they're upset about, and just having everyone in suits and laughing about stuff. And yeah, they had powerful messages, but it really gave me um like a Hunger Games vibe where everyone at the Capitol is laughing, feasting, and then outside in the districts, it's all there's fentanyl, there's violence, there's it again, it's supposed to be a lighthearted thing, but it gave me Hunger Game vibe, especially with a lot of the protesters outside, because it would cut from everyone in suits, all drabbled up, elites talking and laughing and eating, to a bunch of citizens protesting stuff. So it just gave me Hunger Games vibes. But overall, I think it's not supposed to be criticized because it's supposed to be like I think they call it like a nerd prom or something, whatever they call it.
Yeah, they're usually pretty lighthearted with those dinners. Even when Trump
Yeah,
had them, they were pretty lighthearted.
yeah.
What I do want to know, though, with the Hunger Games mention, is who at that dinner is your tribute?
Oh, geez. Let's just say they're supposed to represent my district, right? So it's definitely not going to be Biden because he did joke about his age. So probably, I don't even know at that point. I would have to do my research. I wasn't prepared for that question. You stumped me. Congrats.
No worries. We'll move on to the next topic here. We'll stump you some more, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. That's the goal.
This one's a fun topic.
Oh,
Kristi
yeah.
Noem's VP chances are cooked.
Yeah. So,
Fool?
guys, she actually wrote a book recently, and that's how we found out. She should just rename the book of how not to be the vice president because if you guys don't know, I don't know why she mentioned this. Again, I don't even know why she did this in the first place. She shot a 14-month-old dog because it exhibited aggressive behavior. Now, if anyone has owned pets in this chat, I own pets, right? When a dog is 14 months old, they're a puppy, they're going to be playful and they bite a lot. That could be considered aggressive behavior. You have to train the dog. That's on the owner's thing. So she failed that dog and then ended up shooting. The name of the dog was Cricket. So yeah, she just totally again cooked her VP. Like she is basically, you know, Mitt Romney, who put his dog on top of his car on a family vacation, which the dog survived, still got pushed out and caused some of his support to drop out of against Obama. So she killed the dog. She's out. She's done. I mean, she also gets criticized for her support for Israel, but I don't even see that as a problem because I, she shot a dog. She's done. We'll never see her again. She's not going to be the vice president. Trump would be a fool to give her a VP. pick. You might as well pick a tree for that because that would get more votes. Um, Despicable, by the way. I don't think I need to say that. Like, despicable.
I agree with you there.
Mhm.
And to add on to that, and I'll start with mine as well, but she didn't just kill the dogs. She went a step further now, right? And she's talked about killing multiple horses.
Yeah.
And next, we're gonna find out that she's like, "Oh yeah, no. By the way, I had to kill my grandma, guys."
Yeah, put her
And
out in
it's
pasture.
just like it's gonna
It
get worse and worse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like at first, it's like, oh my gosh, but she it's terrible because it shows that she doesn't think straight in those situations. Based on the story she read or that she wrote in her book, it doesn't sound like it sounds like the dog had some aggression issues, but it wasn't worth shooting the dog over. She just basically was like, "Oh, it once they show aggression issues, there's no going back, and you got to take care of them." And it's a hard thing to do, but as a animal owner and a farm owner, you have to make the right decisions. To and it's like, what?
Yeah.
What? No, no, that's not the right decision there. It doesn't show any type of compassion, what you need
Mhm.
as a leader. It just every time she talks, it gets worse, and I think that she definitely her chances are cooked. It says up there cooked. They are
Yeah.
absolutely shot, pun
Gone.
intended.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And just to add to that too, it's just crazy how she like put in her book like she was proud of this and like you could make an argument where if it was a 7-year-old dog, it attacked someone, right? Then you could probably say, maybe that's justifiable, right? But this is a 14-month-old dog, right? Who's a puppy with a bad owner. So
Yep. I've got a pit bull. It's never attacked anybody before, and she's
exactly.
got a little puppy that's friggin' sounds like Jeffrey Dahmer the way she had to put it down. It's
Yeah.
it's nuts.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's always the owner.
All right. Our next topic is Trent Staggs wins Utah GOP convention endorsement for Senate. So Staggs received a last minute nod from the former president. As we all know, Trump's influence in the Republican Party right now is as strong as ever, surprisingly. The endorsement could very well be the key to Staggs' success in the upcoming primary and general elections. It's a clear sign that the MAGA movement is alive and well, and it's going to have an impact on how the GOP positions itself in years to come. Utah GOP has always kind of been known for shaping uh, federal policy as well as their own state policy. And so this has huge implications on what happens in the future in the national political scene. Utah's senators have historically just played a huge role in that. And so if he ends up winning in the long run, then we could see a huge shift in what happens in this country in terms of potentially even civil rights based
Mhm.
on what some of his beliefs are. And that could be scary. Fool.
Yeah, I mean, you said the MAGA movement is alive and well. I would say it's currently growing. It's currently flourishing. And you have to look at it from two different ways. One, obviously MAGA's growing. This Trent individual could be a true MAGAnist. Trump called him 100% MAGA, right? You know, through and through and complete and total endorsement, right? But it could also be a political move, right? Because Utah, traditionally a red state, does have in 2016 and in 2020 has shown some reluctancy to fully embrace Trump, right? They are Republican, but they're like the Republicans are like, maybe Trump isn't the best option, right? So Utah, even though it's red, is currently having some has historically pushed back on Trump. So, could this be yeah, he is 100% MAGA and Trump would love to have him on the MAGA team? Or could it be him saying, oh, you're 100% MAGA? Asterisk, no, not really, but I need an ally in Utah to push because he got 69.74% of the delegate votes in this recent thing. And he's also the reason why we're talking about too is Senator Mitt Romney is retiring. So that's what he's going for. So Utah, could have there could be a chance that we could see someone blue in there. So that's why I think it could be very political. Or I mean, seeing Trent's policies, it does line up with MAGA policies though too. So um, but yeah, definitely, I would say flourishing with the MAGA movement. I think it's growing. here. And
Yeah, I think to add to that, I think the Utah people have been getting sick of Mitt Romney for quite some time now, and I know
mhm,
he's retiring, and so that
mhm.
helps them choose somebody new. But before, that's kind of like the only choice they had. It's the only choice they've known for a while, and
Yeah.
at this point, after what 8 years now, almost of him completely refusing to endorse Trump,
Yeah.
every point of the way, people just
Mhm.
on that side of the aisle don't support him anymore, I don't think. You
Yeah.
have
I
a
mean,
couple of the Mormon Republicans that may,
mhm.
but a majority of your Republicans just think that he's trying to destroy Trump, and it's not
Yeah.
working.
It's not even that he's trying to destroy Trump. He's just Mitt Romney has always been a bipartisan senator. He obviously is Republican, but he has been one to vote policies over politics, right? Which is what we want and see in politics. But obviously, when you side with the other, if you side with blue as a red, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And Mitt Romney, of course, was very anti-Trump. And seeing how the MAGA movement is increasing, obviously, we're going to see people who like Mitt Romney leaving the Senate, be basically kind of expelled out of like, oh, good, you're out of there. And now we can have true Republicans that hate Democrats for other than they're blue. So
See, let's move on to our next topic. Who starts on this one? I think it's you, right?
yeah,
Trump
yeah.
meets with DeSantis in Miami.
Ooh.
Fool.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about how MAGA's growing in Florida too. I mean, this is something I was actually really surprised with. I mean, obviously we've seen political parties on both Republican and Democrat, like for example, Biden Harris, right? They went after each other in, the presidential campaign, like to become the president, and then she was the VP, and now they all like each other. Obviously, there's probably some tensions here and there, but regardless, they came together. So DeSantis, obviously Trump wants to make sure Florida is in his pocket, right? I mean, losing Florida in an election is bad, right? I know it's a swing state. I would consider it to be a swing state, but normally it does go red. Um, Again, this is a good move for Republican power in the region. Um, to work with DeSantis. Again, DeSantis has a lot of pull inside of Florida, obviously, right? Um, but it's mostly for fundraising efforts for the money, right? Now, Trump has money. Obviously, DeSantis has money, but Biden has a lot of money too. And currently, Biden is outperforming Trump with spending on, obviously, the amount of money you pour in to the election doesn't guarantee you the election win, obviously, but it doesn't hurt, right? So obviously the dive into and to dip into DeSantis' money pool to kind of push Florida into being a deeper red for that really that um popular vote too. I think if we see this is just a theory, I think if we see Trump lose this election but win the popular vote, I would see him attacking the electoral college. So I think maybe he's trying for that too, just to get more red votes in regions like that. Just a theory though.
Interesting theory. Would you say it's a game theory?
It's a political theory.
Definitely is.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's a strategic move by both of them
Mhm.
because for the longest time, this cycle, it's kind of been split. You had your people who wanted to vote for DeSantis and your people who wanted to vote for Trump, and it
Yep.
was either or. And they've been attacking each other neck and neck, throat to throat. And so them coming together at this time is probably Ron DeSantis conceding and saying, let's work together and let's get the Republican Party together and make sure everybody's on the same page. So that
Mhm.
way, come general election time, you don't have people trying to split the vote.
Yeah.
And
100%.
at this point, especially with all the extreme stuff Ron DeSantis has been doing in Florida,
Mhm.
you know that his politics align more with Trump than they do Biden's, and so
Of
at this
course.
point, he knows, who the nominee is, and might as well help somebody who's kind of got his base's views, not all of them, but a lot of them, get the nomination, and it gets everybody together. And so, I know a lot of people could also see it as them just keep your friends close, your enemies closer type thing. But
Mhm.
honestly, I think it's just them trying to unify the base and make sure
Yeah,
come general election time there's no surprises and they beat Joe Biden, which if they it looks like they're probably going to get that done, to be honest with you.
I
Whether
agree.
however you want to think about the election one way or another, that's
Yeah.
they're they're unifying their base together.
Yeah,
So
and just to quickly add on to that, it's a win-win for both of them to consolidate this power. Trump has gotten a lot of flack from trying to take DeSantis votes. Obviously, he needs the people that like DeSantis on his team to win against Biden. And DeSantis is, he still has elections to win. A lot of people that supported him but supported Trump more was leaving him. So obviously now them coming together, I think both camps can be happy. You can vote for DeSantis and Trump as the governor of Florida and then the president of the United States, and everyone's happy. Asterisks, obviously.
our next topic is the protests across the country at universities, and this is a big one.
Huge.
Everybody's heard about the protests.
Mhm,
That's it's not something that's hiding because it's literally happening at all the universities, and uh, the major universities have had police come in now at this point, and they're using tasers, they're using pepper spray, they're
mhm,
using the rubber gun, the rubber bullet guns. They're out in full force, and at this point uh, I think things are going to get real before they get better. And
mhm.
so we've already seen this past week that I believe, was it Texas brought in the National Guard
Yeah,
or something to one of the universities, and
thing
the New
for
York State
enforcers.
Police
Mhm,
uh, said that they could go into Columbia. And so I mean, the things are gonna just and it's not even at this point the government, it's the property owners, the people who own the land, the colleges themselves. They're saying they're getting trespassers and they're
mhm,
having the police come and do their jobs. And it's a tough situation because I do think people have the right to protest, but in a lot of the cases now, many of the people who are protesting, one, don't go to the school,
true.
which is a big point.
Mhm,
I think some stat I saw somewhere, and don't quote me on this, it was like 66% of the people in these protests don't even go to the schools that they're protesting at, which
I've heard a number similar to that, yeah, around that
it's
number range.
it's, it's a large amount. And then
Mhm,
the other thing that is massive about it is they're creating distractions to the point where people who have these opportunities, they may have paid for the opportunity to go to these colleges, or they may have gotten scholarships. However they had to get there, they're
mhm,
blocking their opportunity to learn and to get a higher level education. And in some cases, blocking roads.
mhm,
They're not protesting anymore. They're causing a disturbance. And at some point, there's a difference between protests and disturbances. And
mhm,
I agree with the protests. I don't agree with how far the protests are going in some cases.
mhm,
And I do believe that police need to do a proportionate response, and they shouldn't go too far with uh, how they come in with that like I said, the pepper spray and the rubber bullets might be a little bit too much, but just start arresting people, get them out there, get them
mhm.
out of there. If people aren't going to want to get arrested, so
Yeah. So
fool.
to add on to this, like a lot of these students that are in there, some come from other countries and they're on student visas. Those could be totally revoked. You're risking your academic future for a cause that you believe in. Sure, I 100% believe that you should fight for whatever cause you believe in. I don't particularly support this cause, right? But you have the right to. Obviously, colleges are um, private property, so therefore they can, you know, your First Amendment right is kind of limited there. But um, they can be revoked, and also the student thing where it being 60-40 or whatever it may be, obviously. I also saw a video which really kind of disheartened me. There was this checkpoint of like pro Palestine individuals that were preventing this Jewish student who, in the video, never said he was pro Israel, pro Palestine. He was just trying to get the class, and they wouldn't let him. I've also seen other videos where they're making everyone who is affiliated with the group to be wearing a wristband. And then no one that wants to get to classes or go to anywhere on the campus could get by without a wristband. You would have to, support the cause. And it's really getting crazy, and I believe in the First Amendment right, but again, I don't really particularly believe in this cause. Again, I don't really see the point in it all. I know I was talking to my grandfather today. He actually compared it to the Vietnam protests he saw at the universities back in the day, but that was kind of more of a U.S. involvement in a war, which had more kind of sway in our American politics. This country, this war is between Israel and Hamas, right? And you could probably argue that Israel is doing more for the Palestinians than Hamas ever did. The Palestinians voted Hamas in. Hamas has actively controlled the Palestinians since day one. I think it's 2006. They've built their underground barracks and underground munitions under schools, mosques, places of worship, places of gathering, public places. They have zero disregard of the Palestinians. They're shields. And that's why every time that Palestinians die in war, it's a sad time. No one should die, but unfortunately it happens. It's because of Hamas. They built these things underneath of mosques, of schools, and they put Palestinians in front of that. Israel is not the enemy. I'm saying this to the protesters. If you protest against this, Israel's doing more for the Palestinians than anyone else has. So it really angers me when I see this because, to the river, to the sea, right? They chant, they basically want to get rid of Israel, right? And that's a whole genocide in itself. So it's like you can't be, you know, you can't blame Israel for being genocidal when you want to chant that statement and basically commit genocide back. It just doesn't work like that.
Trump fined $9,000 for violating gag order in hush money case. Fool?
Yeah, I mean, he can't stop talking about it. He keeps going on Truth Social and blabbing about it, and he finally got fined. I mean, $9,000 to Donnie. Like that's that's nothing. Small loan of $1 million type of thing. I think it's not really it's not the money, right? It's just the fine. It's basically saying, hey, you can't do that. I think there's other implications of this too, but I mean, you can't really just say what's happening in court and blab about it online. Obviously, I think Trump's going to continue to do this. I'm not sure if there's going to be any more, personal, um, more punishment tacked onto this. But again, $9,000 for violating it, it's not that steep. Um, and it's more of like a slap on the wrist. It's more of like being formal with it all. But yeah, it's just I think Trump is over this whole thing. He calls it a witch hunt, you know, political prosecution, um, you know, and but yeah, I found this to be a little bit low for the money value just because we're dealing with such a high profile individual.
I agree. $9,000 isn't really much.
For me, it is,
Um,
but for Donald Trump, it's not. You know what I mean? Like that's
mhm. I think it's a bit ironic that a man that's known for his "you're fired" catchphrase can't seem to
yeah,
follow the simplest of legal orders. Uh, but the gag order violation isn't just about his inability to keep his opinions to himself. It's about a larger issue of respect for the legal system.
hmm
We've got a former president of the US openly defying a court order. And this
yeah,
isn't the first time. This is a pattern of behavior. Court didn't just slap him on the wrist. They fined him 9,000, which we talked about for most of us is a lot of money. But for Trump, that's like picking up a nickel off the ground and deciding, nah, let's just drop it. It doesn't,
yeah, true.
$9,000 doesn't matter to him. You discipline a child with a cookie jar like that. That's what we're doing with Trump like that. But if he continues to violate that gag order, he can face jail time, and I think that'd be ironic considering all the other things he could be facing for jail time for. If all the other things fail and he goes because he can't shut his mouth, he keeps blabbing in court about this. That's man like that shouldn't be president. This is a politics
Yeah,
show, but if you can't shut
yeah.
up in the court system, but how are we supposed to trust you with America's secrets?
Yeah, I'm
But
surprised we went 4 years without getting like, you know, aliens leaked and secret government things. That's why I don't
JFK
think they exist.
files.
That's why I don't think they exist at that point because Donald Trump would be out there on social media like, yo, I just saw some aliens, LFMAFO, like
Yeah, we'd know already. That man would have spilled the
he
beans.
he is the man to do it. and I don't. That's why I think we might be alone out here.
All right, our next one is Arizona's Democratic leaders get enough votes to repeal 19th century abortion ban. Start out on this.
Go for it.
So it's a significant step forward in the fight for women's rights and bodily autonomy. Decision is testament to the power of democracy. Shows that when people come together to make their voices heard, that change can happen. The Arizona people, and I can tell you this because guess what, guys? I'm in Arizona.
Whoa.
This is something that everybody was clamoring for to get changed. Even the conservative people, they thought it was a little bit too far, having that on the books from the 1800s. And the Supreme Court in Arizona is conservative. I can give you that. And it's like more of a old school alt-right conservative. They are very hard right. And so that's why something like this got reinstated in the first place. And that's why we had to vote it out and have the actual legislators come together and make sure this wasn't going to be a thing, because the Supreme Court justices, if they were the ones in charge, it would have stayed in place. They are like that. They've made some strange calls over the years, not just for abortion, for marijuana, which we can talk about later. We have a topic about that, but it's a big win for women's rights and for women in general.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before in like past shows, yeah, I believe that, abortion should be a state issue, and obviously Arizona has decided this, which is great. I think the states deciding their own is great, which is awesome. And again, letting laws from the 1800s dictate how we live in the 2020s is probably not a good idea. Things have changed rapidly. Healthcare has rapidly changed. You know, um, I think some laws, some states say from the 1800s say like, oh, you can't like kill a horse in the street. Like that's how old these laws are. And obviously this one had more impact, but I'm just saying like some of them still exist and haven't been phased out yet. But and also too, this kind of shows the Arizona has been slowly embracing more and more um a Democrat here recently. And this is kind of a push of that too, like because mostly if you think of a Democrat, they're pro-abortion, and then Republicans are usually statistically against abortion. And the fact that this gets pushed, maybe there's a little bit shift. We talked about, I believe, last week or the 2 weeks before, that there has been a little bit of shift towards Biden in that state, which is a swing state. So this could also kind of be another deciding factor, or it could maybe backfire on the Democrats. I don't know, but again, I'm glad the state decided on this. It's always good to see.
Gaetz dubs House anti-Semitism bill a ridiculous hate speech bill. Fool.
I honestly believe Gaetz is just a man that loves just the fact that he's against the general. Like I feel like he loves to be the sole person on top of a hill by himself defending some weird cause. He's always on the other side of some giant, like there's 99% like support for something, and then there's Matt Gaetz over there just being like, I don't like it, and like look at me, I'm special. This is another reason it's an anti-Semitism bill aimed at the protests, aimed at the colleges right now. I think it's a good idea because anti-Semitism is on the rise in campuses. Let me just be clear, not every protester hates Jewish people, but these protests has allowed for a certain amount of people to take advantage of the situation. Hate crimes against Jewish people has increased not only in campuses but nationwide. Okay, so it's a problem. Not saying the protest is causing this; it's just allowing it to breed, kind of unrestricted, right? Um, and for Gates to say this is a ridiculous hate speech bill, it goes against the Constitution. Again, I think he has an addiction to the limelight. I haven't heard his name in a week, so probably he was crafting something up to say, and now I'm talking about him, and he's winning. Okay, so I'm sick of it. Okay, um, so that's
You know what
that's
they
my
say?
take.
Any publicity is good publicity, right?
Like that's Gates' personal motto.
See, well, I think everyone has the right to express their opinion. His labeling of the House anti-Semitism bill as a ridiculous hate speech bill is not only insensitive but also dangerously dismissive. The bill aims to combat anti-Semitism on college campuses and other public spaces, problem that has been on the rise in recent years, especially within the last year. By opposing this bill and labeling as hate speech, he's not only trivializing the very real issue of anti Semitism, but also potentially contributing to its further spread. His argument against the bill seems to be based on a misunderstanding of its contents. The bill does not criminalize the gospel or any other religious text. Rather, it seeks to prevent the use of anti Semitic rhetoric and symbols. By conflating the two, he's either intentionally misleading the public or demonstrating a lack of understanding of the bill's actual intent. Lastly, his opposition to the bill on the grounds that the First Amendment rights is a red herring. The First Amendment protects the right of free speech, but it does not protect hate speech. The bill is designed to protect individuals from discriminatory speech and actions, not to suppress free expression.
Yeah,
And freedom of speech, not freedom of reach.
Yep. And just to add on to that, there is a small, loud minority of people in this country that says that banning hate speech is a First Amendment violation. They say that, again, I don't believe this. It's total BS here, right? But they say that hate speech should be protected, and those people should be watched carefully. That's all I'm saying. It's terrifying that people think that way, that they can just say what they want to say at a group to send negativity, right? When your rights infringe on others, that's the problem, right? So hate speech is not free speech, um so yeah, but that is again a loud minority. Not a lot of people like that, but again, loud minority.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't agree with this at all. I'm just saying, I
Mhm.
think the people who complain about the hate speech not being included in that, their whole point is, oh, what's hate speech then? You
Yeah,
know, like
that's
what do
their
you
all that.
define as hate speech? Is like,
Mhm.
oh, I hate the Patriots. If I call you a fucking donkey licking dicker or something because you did you hear that, Chet? Oh my
Oh my
god.
god, ban this
Does
man.
that mean I am not protected because that's hate speech? No, it doesn't. It's stupid,
Yeah.
obviously. That's not how rational people think of things, but that's
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
those type of people think of things
Yeah,
when it
it's
comes to
it's
that.
those types of people are professional like arguers. They always look for problems, and you can't win with them. Best to just walk away.
Let me tell you, fool, this next topic we have, it's a favorite of mine.
Oh, you get the start on it.
Biden administration plans to reclassify marijuana, easing restrictions nationwide. So let me start out by saying the war on drugs disproportionately targeted minority communities, resulting in mass incarceration and the destruction of families. Reclassifying marijuana acknowledges the racial disparities in drug enforcement and takes a step forward in rectifying these injustices. By reclassifying it, the Biden admin can regulate the substance, ensuring quality control and safety for consumers, which is a huge deal right now. It's unregulated. You can get stuff with mold in it. You can get pesticides, all this other stuff. Um, Legalizing marijuana can create a booming industry, generating tax revenue and job opportunities. That's huge. You guys don't
Nasty.
realize that these states that have legalized it are making so much money off of it.
Buku bucks.
And the government can't really do anything about it right now with research or tax because it's not scheduled correctly. And so once they can, you best believe that our tax returns might be getting bigger in some of these states too. You hear places like Colorado where they introduced weed legally and people had on average like $800 more in their tax return because of it, which is
Wow,
that's not a small amount. That's ridiculous. That's
that's pretty big.
mm-hmm. Uh, by easing restrictions on marijuana, law enforcement can focus on more pressing issues, which I think is a big one. Violent crime and public safety is what we need to be focusing on. Could lead to
Hmm.
more efficient use of resources and a more effective criminal justice system. Not having 10,000 people locked up for marijuana and not having to pay for all that could do quite a number on our justice system and getting real crime off the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, also, I mean, you kind of hit the nail around the head here. Like, this is just a good move. Like, this is, I don't know why it took this long. Again, being arrested and put into jail over possession of marijuana is very stupid. There's a lot more problems in this country with harder drugs. There's also, again, you mentioned how some dealers lace their stuff, and now we can kind of, and then again, the money involved too, right? You get a lot of money from marijuana. I mean, my state it just recently added some groweries here, and we've seen a big boom in our local economy, which is great, fantastic. Um, the one question that I do, again, this is a huge move in the right direction. I just don't understand why it took this long. And two, the minute I saw this, when I saw this blast on my news site, I said, man, Biden's really looking for some votes. Like, I immediately thought, because again, his poll numbers are pretty terrible. I think they're the worst a sitting president has had in the recent in the last couple presidents at this point in time. So yeah, this is a big move. I mean, this is going to get him some votes here. Like uh, just political wise, I mean, he could have done this year one, year two, right? But he's decided to do it right before a general election. So it makes you think, yeah, this is a great move. Again, I'm not going to criticize it too much, but I think Biden definitely strategically did this because a lot of young people are going to be like, wow, Biden's cool as hell, right? And yeah, there it is.
Yeah, and to kind of rebut on that a little bit, I don't think so. I think the country was ready for it when
Oh,
Obama
yeah.
was president. And I'm going to sound bad saying this. You can quote me on it if you want, but certain parts of the country would have not been okay with it because a black president made it happen. And so Obama couldn't have done it. And so then you move on after that, right? Who do you have after that?
Mhm.
You got what, Trump?
Yeah, Trump. Yeah.
And Trump's not going to do it. Although he would have been smart to do it
Hmm.
because he's the business guy.
Yeah. Money.
Trump's the business guy. You would have thought, let's legalize marijuana, let's make money.
Hmm.
That would have been huge. But he's against vices. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do any of
Yeah.
this. He's had a brother who got addicted and I think died maybe. I don't know. I can't remember the story, but he does not like vices like that. And so that was probably never going to happen on his end.
True.
Now you have Biden,
He's just cool.
and you're right. It was we could have done it when Obama was president, but because of who he was, it wouldn't have worked with certain
Hmm.
people. But with Biden, he could have done it any time. You're right. He chose
Yeah.
to wait because he knew his
I don't
people
fault.
around him are smart.
Hmm.
They know this is the thing right before the general election that could potentially bag up a lot of people for votes.
Yeah. I don't
Hmm.
blame him for it. And just to kind of add to like the Obama thing, like I agree. Like there's unfortunately some people in this country, again, very big, very small minority, that anything that he did was because they didn't like because of his ethnicity. And but to have Obama not do it because of that, I think we can't allow these people to control things, right? We need to, if they say, "Oh, we don't want him to do anything," still do it because guess what? They're a dying breed, and they're hateful and they're awful and they're not Americans. They're just hateful individuals and they're dying out. And I'm glad they are because we don't need that in our country. And if that was the case, if Obama didn't do that because of, again, there was probably a lot more factors to it. But if that was the sole reason, I think we shouldn't let these crazy people dictate on how we push forward because again, they're a dying breed. They don't represent us.
You're not wrong about that, but
Hmm.
he was the first black president, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of pressure in that because if you fail, and it's up to interpretation whether he failed or succeeded based on who you talk to, right? Because of your
Hmm.
political leanings.
Sure.
But he was a successful president. He was a president who got shit done. He had his faults, just like all presidents do.
Of course. Yeah.
But that's one of those things that you have to make sure that you're not screwing this up for a potential future black president, right? Because
Hmm.
if you fuck it all up, you legalize weed and then the country goes to shit because of it. You're the black president who legalized weed and
Yeah,
caused the country to go to
I can
shit.
see that. Yeah, yeah. But
And
weeds.
I don't think that way, right? But
Mhm.
like we said, we have these people. We shouldn't let them control this country. But luckily, those people are dying off, like you
Yeah,
said.
thankfully.
Yeah, we talk about people shouldn't be old enough to fucking run. Some people shouldn't be old. Should be fucking cut off from voting at a certain age too. Jesus.
Yeah. So yeah, that's like a great conversation of like just like general like sanity, like tests that we need to do before you can vote. Like it's crazy.
hmm But we spent a lot of time on that topic.
That's
Let's
okay.
yeah, I like that topic. But let's move on
Mhm.
to our next one, which
Mhm.
is Trump says he'll use the National Guard to deport migrants, doubling down on anti-immigration rhetoric. Fool.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's surprised by this, I don't think you really know Trump. I mean, this is from his, this has been, you know, his MO, and we obviously have a problem at the border, and again, like I watched this documentary about how even if 99% of like these people coming across our border have no ill intent. They just want to, which is true. Majority of these people want a better life. They're escaping a dictator, prosecution, cartels. It's terrible, and I want them to succeed, right? But even if 1% of these people have negative, um, like have like ill intent on what like the cartel or terrorism, we're in big trouble still, right? And again, that 1% is probably even a little bit bigger too, because again, cartels. There's a lot of um, terrorism groups out of Africa coming into. And again, Trump saying he used the National Guard to deport migrants. I mean, I mean, am I saying it's good or bad? I don't know yet because I don't know if it's going to have an effect. I know a lot of people were memeing about how the Republicans during the Republican debates were saying that they're going to do a special military operation to Mexico. But we need to start asking ourselves questions. Well, the cartels are running everything down in Mexico, right? They're supporting the drugs into the United States, which is causing inner cities to collapse. You see in like Philadelphia or Baltimore, these like fentanyl mixed with trank, and it's eating up people. They're rotting like modern day zombies. And we find that the fentanyl is from the cartels, and we find that the trank, which actually just recently came out, the trank is actually coming from a Chinese company out of Wuhan, China, from the same facility chat that um, worked on research on coronaviruses. Now, without getting, potentially harmed, I don't want to cause any, I don't want to put any correlation between the two. Okay, but just saying there's a problem that the cartels are doing. Right, the cartels are a problem. They're affecting the American families. You think the cartels is gonna? I just saw your faces, by the way, on the replay. um, but I'm just saying, like, if we have the cartels doing this to inner cities in like Baltimore, Philadelphia, even like Boston, how do we deal with them? They're in another country, but like, is a special military operation needed? I'm not supporting it, but I'm not supporting it. There's a problem, and we need to fix it. And I'm down to try new things. Honestly, what a
He's
rant!
down for the brown, chat. He's down for the brown.
Yeah, what a
All
rant!
right. It's not only a blatant disregard for the values that America stands for, but it's also a dangerous escalation of anti immigration rhetoric. This policy is a clear attempt to further divide our nation and create a climate of fear and hostility towards immigrants, which could lead to increased discrimination and violence against vulnerable communities. Our nation is not under attack. This is not an attack. This is not an invasion. This is an invasion that you don't classify this as an invasion. This isn't people coming over and invading us. This is people trying to get a better life. It's not an invasion. It's not what the National Guard is used for. Using them for such purposes diverts resources from more pressing issues and potentially strains relationships with our allies. As noted by former NATO ambassador Ivo Dalder, it's important to consider that the National Guard is not trained in immigration enforcement, which could lead to human rights violations and further strain our already overburdened immigration system. Trump's plan to end birthright citizenship and reimpose a travel ban is a clear attempt to undermine the principles of inclusivity and diversity that are fundamental to our democracy. As Americans, we should reject these divisive policies and instead work towards comprehensive immigration reform that addresses the root cause of migration and respects the dignities and rights of all individuals. Let's make legal immigration easier.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, like the main reason for these individuals to migrate to the United States or Europe or anything like that is because of economic woes. We have, dictators perhaps, going after some sort of ethnic group. You have cartels, because again, cartels in the small cities, they extort these people, right? And if you owe them money, they'll throw you into a shallow grave and hack you to pieces. And or even Africa, they're escaping droughts, right? Obviously, these people are in need, right? But again, to try to fix it as America, we can't really be like, oh hey, unless we start civil wars in like South America to get rid of these dictators, to get rid of the cartels. There's really not much that we can do, and I am always down for my like you know legal migration through our ports because again our country was founded on the belief of escaping a certain reality to potentially the American dream is alive and well, right? It's just I think I believe it's Article 4. I think Article 4 should be reinstated because it allows other countries to take some of these migrants and hopefully house them because again America's not the answer for everyone. You can have a good life in Mexico, you can have a good life in this country, that country. Um, I think Article 4 kind of helped that process out a bit. So I think Article 4 would help it pretty much a little bit. Again, um, it's a tough discussion because it's such a complex issue. And I think
And
this
with
is one of our
America, that's how it was founded. Like you
yeah,
said, it
yeah,
was founded by people coming over and trying
yeah,
to create a better life for themselves. And
hmm
uh, the basis that you need a certain amount of money or
hmm
standing in order to make it over here, I think is ridiculous. I do think that obviously the solution is going to be probably it has to be worked on by both sides of the aisle, but it realistically, if we're having these migrants come in legally, mind you, if they come in legally, they
hmm
create some system where we have, a mass amount of people coming in. We're going to have to support it.
yeah,
They really need to get on building more houses. And there are plenty of jobs to give these people. Um, there are plenty of projects that the government's been working on that can literally give thousands and thousands of people jobs, like uh, on the oceans. Send them all to Pacific cities or Atlantic cities and
yeah,
have them work on the projects where they're turning the salt water into drinking water and things like that take a lot of people, or
hmm yeah,
nuclear power plants, or just there's so much jobs out there. There's so many things that are opening up, and I don't want to
yeah.
say low level. There's all sorts of things to do.
I would
And
say
like you
entry
said, it's not
level.
just people coming from Mexico.
hmm
It's people coming from China. It's people coming
hmm
from South America, just in general,
Yeah,
all over. I mean, and it's not the first time we've had a mass migration of people from one place. We had it happen in Cuba
hmm
to Florida.
yeah.
Um, so, I mean, the United States has always advertised itself as a land that is the great American melting pot, and you can come and build your great American dream. Until now, it's like maybe in the early 2000s they stopped being that,
Was
and
I
it's
think
gotten worse
after
ever since. And now it's only you're only welcome if you can afford it,
hmm
and if you can get through the 10-year process of becoming a citizen,
yeah.
which that's it's a bit much. If we can get it worked out to where people can legally emigrate over, then I think
hmm
we're going to be good and
Yeah,
solid. It just
our
takes too
legal
long.
yeah, our legal immigration is terrible, and I agree we need to bump it up too. But like talking about like America, like just being like, I think America has declined in world power, like you said, like around 2000. I honestly would say in the 90s, I would say we started becoming less and less of like a. I know we consider ourselves to be like the top superpower in the world, but I would say that American influence has, especially because of 9/11, we also got very nervous of who's like we were very vulnerable on 9/11. I mean, I think that was the most vulnerable we've ever been since Pearl Harbor, and um, I think we never recovered from that as a people. We were just like, we got to double down. We got to, make sure everyone is safe, even if 1% is coming in here that has ill intent. That's like thousands of people. They could have another 9/11. We're very ever since 9/11. I think we're very anxious
Americans
people.
lived life in fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Americans live their life in fear.
Yeah, and we never really did that before 9/11, or like so it's again, it's tough. Like, this whole debate is tough about it, and Trump is a new wave, and I guess this is the last thing I'll say. Trump is the new wave of American politics. And he, even when we get rid of Trump, even when he does his second term, if he does, well, MAGA is here, and it's here to stay. The policies that it brings is going to be here. It has started this kind of social revolution of America first, closed door policy that we saw with America in, I think, the 20s and 30s before World War II. Even with World War One, we didn't really get involved with much. We were kind of just trying to work on ourselves. I think right now we're still trying to work on ourselves as people, our culture, and we're kind of skittish people that any influence of culture to us is a shock. We don't want that to be the status quo. We want this to be. So I think uh, MAGA is supporting this type of closed door thing, and it's only going to get worse because, again, this is the start, you know, founding fathers type of thing in the sense of like new political affiliations.
Yeah, it's only the beginning for these policies, and
Mhm.
especially if our prediction comes true of Trump winning the election,
Yeah.
which I think is going to happen. So
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I've been looking at some polls recently, and um, this this whole protest, like the pro-Palestinian thing's actually hurting Biden, especially after that bill went to Israel. So um, definitely Trump is definitely. You see how Trump is kind of really silent about Israel. He's letting Biden do all the talking right now, which is good because um, if Trump says something, that goes that again though the thing is though is that these Democratic pro-Palestinian people aren't going to vote for Trump, right? They won't vote for Biden. They just won't vote, or they won't even go to the polls. But you won't see them going to like, oh, I guess we'll vote for Trump. They obviously won't do that. I mean, some of them might. Obviously, there's always data, right? But um, they're not going to vote for Trump. They're just not going to vote, or third party maybe.
mm, well, fool, I think we had a great episode.
Beautiful
What about you,
episode.
chat? Everybody, you think so?
Yeah. Any comments,
Yeah, we
concerns?
do. Did you guys hear that? That's
Wow.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
that's a wow. It's a second one. That's two of them today.
that's a
Insane.
lot. That's a lot of people.
We do want to thank you, everybody. It was
Mhm.
a great episode. Thank you for
Fantastic.
coming for the fourth one of the
Mhm.
Great American Squabble, our
More to
fourth
come.
episode in
Mhm.
4 weeks. We're staying consistent, and we're going to
Right.
keep refilling you with that gas. So come on back next week. We'll be
Mhm.
here. Take care. Thank you, Dirty Mama. We always bring the good stuff. Guys, give a round of applause to my gracious co host, Unoptimized Fool.
And of course, a round of
And
applause to you.
thank you. Thank you. Take care. We'll see you guys next week.